the City Council meeting to order today. It's December 20th, 2021. Hope everybody's doing well this evening. And we have a substitution, which will be online. John Fulmer is going to start us off with the invocation and the pledge. So, John.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful but chilly day today. And we thank you for the privilege of living here in Clemson in this wonderful community. Be with us today as we listen to our residents and we try to do what's absolutely best for this community. In your name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, John, for substituting it. That was a short notice, too, just so you know. Appreciate that. But we are going to turn it over to public sessions. Councilmember Smith is going to lead us, if that's okay. So we'll turn it over to her. We're looking up at the screen here.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize for not being there in person, but issues are beyond my control. Doesn't allow me to attend today. But hopefully we have some comments from the public. If you'd like to make a comment today, we'll love to hear your comment. You have 3 minutes to make those comments. And if you're online like I am, you can call in, and that number is 653-9886, and you want to follow the instructions. So if you want to call in and make a comment about anything that is not on the agenda for today's meeting, you're free to do so at this time. If I can't see anyone coming to the podium, you all can let me know if anyone wants to make a public comment.
I'll take care of that. Yes, ma'am. All we have.
Okay? And no. Well, Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you, and we'll go ahead and close our public sessions for this day on December 20th. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate it again. All right. Next item is the possible approval of minutes for December 6, 2021. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Second.
Thank you, Bob. Any other further discussion? All in favor of? Yes.
First ordinance listed in the policy action agenda. I think the proper vote was 4-2. Voting in favor of the motion, Mayor Anthony Wood, Councilman Whipple, Alderman Smith. Voting in opposition to the motion was Bruce McGuire. So that vote is a 5-2.
So ordinance for,
First ordinance, second reading, and policy. I think.
Thank you.
And then the second thing on page 3. Halfway down it says public comment, and it has Leah, Robbie Phillips. There's a third comment that Robbie, someone said that the difference is Robbie was talking about recreation activities, about school activities. I checked it. I don't know what. There's a third person comment.
It wasn't that Marco and Emma mentioned in there on that first line in there? There's 2 names on that first line. I think he just went 1, 2, 3.
I think he was the second. Yeah,
Okay, so it's Marco. Okay.
So, yeah, he came up. I do remember when he came up right after. Yes.
We're the same dress, so
Thank you, Fran. So with those changes, any other further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your hand. And Alicia, we'll just do a big thumbs up. Yeah, she raised her hand. Thank you. I gotta get used to looking back at the screen again, so thank you very much. There we go. Perfect. All right. So we'll go into reports and discussion agenda item. First, we're going to receive a presentation to on the Green Crescent Trail and city bikeways and possibly one route. And Todd and Nick are here to fill us in. Nice.
Well, good evening. Some of you all may recall that 2 years ago, the council adopted a revised version of the land development regulations, and one of the items in the land regs that was I think a positive leap forward for the city was the requirement that any development that occurred adjacent to our bikeways plan or to our Green Crescent Trail, that the developer was going to be responsible for implementing that section of the trail or bikeways, or pay into a fund. What we're proposing tonight is to take the Green Crescent Trail map and the bikeways plan for the city and combining them into one. And then for each section, each lineal foot of those trails, to go ahead and designate what type of trail the city is going to be expecting you to install. A lot of this content already exists, it's just in different places, and we just thought it made sense to put it all together.
I think the other goal we had is so when it is on the website and the developers are going to come in, they can better estimate what their cost is going to be associated with the front of the building and things like that as well.
And it's also, Nathan and I have talked about it, we anticipate this to be fluid, that recommendations from council, that recommendations from staff, that on an annual basis, as developments occur or as the city starts to grow in different ways, that we may come to you or you may come to us with a recommendation that we add another section to the trail or change the category of that particular section of trail. So nothing that, if y'all were to adopt this, sets anything in stone. But it gives us a starting point, so we're, for any developer and for our own decision making from a planning and engineering standpoint, it gives us a basic roadmap.
Questions? Yes.
Just I have no problems, other than, now, will this affect grant opportunities at all? Green Crescent Trail is nonprofit.
So the Friends of the Green Crescent Trail is nonprofit. The trail itself is not a nonprofit. The trail itself will be owned and maintained by the city.
And then if developers were paying the direct price of the trail, that becomes private. I guess I'm just wondering if
This would be within the right of way, adjacent to the frontage with the developer was looking at. So the developer would be installing a section within like the bounds of their where their property meets the right of way.
There's plenty of other opportunities for trail outside of what developers would be putting on the ground that will, for grants and everything else, because that would mostly be along roadways and a little bit inside of.
I'd say 95 to 97% of this is all within existing right of ways that the city of Clemson already owns.
Yeah.
There's some other specific areas that are kind of like hopeful locations,
Yeah.
Are there things on here like I was trying to look the other day and when this came out, just wanted to make sure is like the 18-mile creek corridor in here, and I'm just not seeing.
So we have had part of the work in developing this. We worked with Friends of the Green Crescent Trail. We know the property. We have a kind of an opposition of the property owners, so it was determined that at this time it's probably not pertinent to have that in our plan. That may change in the future. That's the reason we think this is kind of a living document. So
Looks like some of it's on there. So, gotcha.
yeah, there's sections where we know that there's property owners
Right.
that are willing.
I see exactly what you're talking about now. It's making sense now that I'm looking at it. Okay, gotcha.
And so our plan would be to bring this to y'all for a vote at the January 3rd meeting.
Thanks.
Any other questions? I was remiss at the beginning to announce a big award. Where's Jay? There's Jay in the back. Sorry, it was my fault. It was on the agenda and I just kept on going. You know me, I just keep on moving. But this is a very important award. So can I read this real quickly and then Jay, if you'll come up, please sit so I can read it first. So you don't have to stand up here. So we're pleased to announce that the City of Clemson Parks and Rec Department has won the South Carolina Athletic Program's Department of the Year for 2021. This award is for Class 2, 10,000 to 25,000 population. This award was voted on by the South Carolina Athletic Programs Board and was awarded at the Sports Management Institute in Greenville 2 weeks ago. It's based on the number and type of athletics programs offered, the innovative creation of new sports, the program numbers, the number of athletes that participate in the City of Clemson athletics was an all-time high this past year of 2,400 plus, 11% increase from 2019-20. And the highlight of 2021 was the 8U and 12U baseball teams winning the Dixie Youth World Series title in Mississippi. Titles, I should say. Another first in 2021 was the 12U girls basketball team becoming the first Clemson girls team to ever win a South Carolina AP state championship, and the 14U boys also won the state title last March in block. So this is the third time in the last 4 years that the City of Clemson has won this award. So congratulations to our Parks and Rec, well deserved. And Jay, you want to come up and we'll take a picture real quickly if you're okay. Congratulations.
Jay wants another picture of us.
You get to hold the award, Jay. Sure, award. And then you get some behind the guys. All in the so if you're comfortable, you take that.
Way off center. John, y'all are fine in front, but John, if you and Fran step over just a
There you
little
go.
bit, and y'all, Bob, you be in between the two of them. Bob there. Then I can get everybody.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
A little bit more for him. Love John a little bit more.
It's hard.
I know. It's good.
All right, great, thank you. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
You can Photoshop me in.
All right, thank you, Jay. All right. So we'll get back to the reports and discussion agenda item that B, discuss the development of Black History sites and possibility of exploratory of trails. And our CAM director, Angela, is going to come up here and do the introduction. Thank you, Angela.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor. Ronda Robinson Thomas is the Calhoun Lemon Professor of Literature at Clemson University, where she researches, teaches, and writes about early African American literature and culture. Dr. Thomas has published the award-winning Call My Name Clemson, documenting the Black experience in an American university community, and co-edited the South Carolina Roots of African American Thought. She is also the director of the award-winning Call My Name, African Americans in Clemson University History Project, for which she received a Whiting Foundation Public Engagement Fellowship and a National Endowment for the Humanities and South Carolina Humanities Grant. She is currently serving as the Research and Community Engagement Coordinator for the African American Burial Site in Clemson's Woodland Cemetery. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Thomas.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor Hacker. Thank you for inviting me to come. We had a conversation a few weeks ago, I think it was now, about.
Dr. Thomas, if you're okay with taking out for a little bit, I mean, it's up to you. If you feel comfortable.
Sure. As long as I stand here, I'll be fine. Had a conversation a few weeks ago about this project that started probably several years ago in my mind as I began learning about the history of African Americans on campus and the history of African Americans in the city of Clemson and the connections between that history. I'm sure you all are well aware that Black folks who worked at Clemson before integration lived in the city of Clemson and the city of Seneca as well. They also, when Harvey Gantt came and African American students came, were extremely supportive of those students. Our gospel choir was born in the Golden View Baptist Church. So there are many, many connections between the campus history and the city histories of Clemson and Seneca in particular, also Pendleton. So I had in my mind this idea to establish a history trail. And because I have so many other projects going on right now, it was kind of sitting on the back burner. With the Woodland Cemetery Project, we've been having Zoom community meetings, and at one of those meetings last spring, one of your residents said, hey, what about a Black History Trail? And I said, okay, maybe that idea is going to move to the front burner. So I started talking about it to our Legacy Council. That's our trustees who administer the Woodland Cemetery Project. They got interested. We had some community meetings in Seneca and Clemson to determine if residents were interested. We got a very enthusiastic response from residents that said they were very interested. So then I started kind of talking to everybody in the administrative roles, the mayor, the city administrators, to say, are the cities interested? So I had a conversation with Scott Maldron over in Seneca. They're interested. Shelby Henderson, who is their arts and history director, she's interested. I talked to your mayor, Mel Halfaker, he's interested. And finally, I went to Clemson and had a conversation with Max Allen, who is in conversation with our president. He's interested. Talked to the Clemson University Foundation. They're interested in helping fundraise. So I'm here tonight to say that we are officially launching this exploratory phase. The history trail is a wonderful idea, but we need to know where the sites are. We need to know if they actually can create a trail that is accessible to people, that actually might complement the Green Crescent Trail, which I'm learning more about. How much will it cost? So we got a planning grant from South Carolina Humanities to spend the next 6 months exploring this idea. We wanted to come and officially let the city council know that we are entering into this exploratory phase. We will keep you informed on how it develops. We also will be creating a database of historic sites. So Angela will get access to that database for her work with the Clemson Area African American Museum. Shelby Henderson will get access to it for her work with the Bertha Lee Strickland Cultural Museum. So part of what we do, no matter what happens, is that we are here to support the work of local organizations that document and share the local Black history. My role is to kind of make sure that Clemson as a land-grant institution begins utilizing more of its resources in the support of such projects like this. I have assured Angela, she's on my Call My Name coalition, that we're here to support her work. So this is a tangible way we can do that. So there are members of the faculty on this planning committee. Also Angela and Shelby are on the planning committee. The other exciting possibility is that the new International African American Museum in Charleston is also interested in this project. Joshua Parks, who directs their creative media, is also on this planning committee. He is interested in developing a mini documentary series about sites in the African American community in this area. Also, Shelby has connections to the South Carolina African American Heritage Commission that are very interested in putting more historical markers on African American sites in this area. So as you can see, it already has multiple ways that it can impact this area. We believe that the history of the upstate, as far as African Americans are concerned, is just as important as what goes on in the Low Country. Sometimes when people think about African American history, they think about the Low Country or they think about the Midlands. But you all know there's a rich history in the upstate that we hope this project will bring attention to. So I'm really here just to say we're launching. We'll be in conversation with you. If you have questions, please reach out to me. If there are concerns, please reach out to me. But I just want to assure you that we're being very methodical. We won't be making any major decisions without you. And we really hope this works. I think it could be a really significant project for the city, for the university, and for the entire upstate. So if y'all have any questions right now, I can answer them. Otherwise, I will probably be back in the future. Yes.
First of all, I've gotten to know Brian Stack a little bit from the sesquicentennial work, and he's great and a wonderful resource.
Yeah, he is. He's right over there.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, without Zoom, I don't recognize you.
Yeah.
And I wonder, are you working with the Pendleton Historic Board as well?
We are starting with the city of Clemson and the city of Seneca, and then we will branch out to
Okay.
Pendleton and Central. But yes, they are on our radar. But yes, we.
I'm on that board, and I know we had a conversation with the African American Museum as well, so we can make those connections.
Yeah, we had some conversations with Terrence. He's on the commission, on the Common In Coalition, so he's aware of these things.
Good.
But it's good to know that you also are on the board, the Pendleton Foundation. Yeah, I should talk to you. We've been trying to get the names of people on that board, so I will follow up with you to
I
try
will
and
make
get
sure
that
I get
information from you.
Okay.
But yes, absolutely. Pendleton was kind of the city for the college in the early days, and the history that we want to document actually goes back beyond the founding of Clemson to the very earliest days when African Americans were here, which is the late 1700s, from what we can tell.
Yeah, that's how I met Terrence, was starting to talk about grants for the Keith Barn project and what's going on in Pendleton. So yeah, I've kind of have worked both sides of that on. But I will make sure you get those names. Brian, I can get them to you. I have your email.
Yeah, and if you all want to be involved on this phase, we're open to that. This is kind of a come one, come all. So if you would like to be involved with this phase, we certainly will welcome you to the table.
I won't speak for the whole board until we talk further.
Yeah, but talk about it and get back. Like I said, cut this talk and get back to us. But we'd be happy to have you all on board at this phase.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Other questions? Thank you, Thomas. Sure. Do you mind, I know Shelby, a lot of titles.
Yes.
Do you know all those titles? You can maybe
I do.
Email. I know I've got her email, but I saw all of this. So this is just really for everyone from the community, the city council, of what Shelby does in the city of Seneca. So
Yeah, so she is the Arts, History, and Culture Department director, also the director of the Bertha Lee Strickland Cultural Museum, and she's also the District 3 representative for the South Carolina African American Heritage Commission.
when I first met her,
Yeah, she just got that Arts, History, and Culture Department director recently, but they are really scaling up what they're doing for arts and culture in Seneca. So we're excited to be here and just look forward to working with you all. And as I said, I'm right up the road, so if you have questions, I'm easy to find. If you all ever want to come over and see what we're doing, Dr. Stack works very closely with me on the cemetery project. So all of these projects are kind of coming together, which is nice. But we think that this trail could be a good thing also for tourism, frankly, to bring more folks up here who come for football, give them something else to do and learn a little bit more about the history of the area. So, all right,
greatly
thank you.
appreciate it. Stay safe. Happy holidays. All right, we'll go into the agenda. Next, we'll go into staff report. I'm looking at Andy.
All right.
Really, because you have it all.
I asked Development Strategy if they would do a work session with the City Council to present to y'all where they're at after the second workshop so they can get y'all's feedback on their ideas and concepts before they got too far down the road. And they said they would be ready the week of January 24th. So I need y'all to look at your calendars to see if you have a day that works best for y'all. We're looking at a 1-hour virtual meeting.
Time frame again? What time frame?
Week of the 24th, 1 hour.
I'll look around just to make sure there's no days that are just totally out first and foremost. I'm trying to make this as concise as possible.
It's a 5th week. We don't have a council meeting, right?
Cool. Oh, yes. Sorry. Thank you. Keeping me on track. Yes. Alicia.
I'm not available that week for sure. On the 25th, between 9 and 11, and then on that Tuesday afternoon at 1:30, from 1:30 to 3. Other than that, I'm free the rest of the week.
So eliminate Tuesday.
Could we have it that Monday night at around 6, our normal council time, and they're an hour behind or something? Since we're
The
kind
only
of
other thing I was thinking is if we have a municipal session, I don't know if we are.
PCMA.
Yeah, I don't know when that's going to be announced.
I haven't heard anything about that.
That's normally always the fourth Monday, so, but it's always at 7, right?
Yes.
So we could do it like, to John's point, 5 or 5:30. Okay. So is everybody good at 5 o'clock on Monday, January 24th? Everybody's, okay, so 5 o'clock. Yes, okay, 5 o'clock, January 24th. Okay.
All right. Now, I was going to remind y'all when our holiday hours are. We're closed this Thursday and Friday, and then again on December 31st for New Year's Eve. Allie Gant is with us now, new assistant administrator, and one of the things she's looking into is broadband service. And she came to me with some information today because she noticed that the map on the state's website wasn't as accurate as she thought, because she recently moved to the area and was very aware of the speeds of her service and just kind of noticed the discrepancy there. I said, why don't you call and see what's up with that? So she did. I thought that might be good public information for people to know.
Yes, I'm excited to stand before you all today as your new assistant city administrator. I got to work, I think, two weeks ago on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, and have been busy ever since. So like Andy said, we're looking at the need for broadband and future funding opportunities that will be available. And when looking at the map, I realized it said at my new home I had 300 megabits when I actually have 25. So that made me kind of look into the other areas. And when I reached out to them, they said that the map is based off of their predicted speeds, but they do a lot of crowdsourcing and ask, in order for us to make sure that we have the most accurate information, if the council can help spread the word to our citizens to go to www.speedtest.net and do on any mobile device, smart device, computer, and they update their information every 90 days, and that's how we can make sure we get the most accurate information to put us in a better place for funding opportunities.
What's the site again?
It's www.speedtest.net.
If you send that, I met with Jim and his group last Friday, and if you, we were going to talk about this, Andy, is one of the things they would like us to do as we explore this is if we can get it down, they can put the dot per household. And so we'll be able to add that to the maps density. They have a really good analytics guy who is updating these maps. And so it really is interesting to look at Anderson, Oconee, and Pickens to look at the upstate. So yeah, we can have those updated maps, and they're going to come up and visit, by the way, the end of January.
Perfect. And I'll work with Lowell to get this up on the website and try to get it out to as many residents as possible. Thank you.
So you do one last day. Can you just send that to the right website? We'll just
I can do that.
out to maybe employee sources. So they can,
You're welcome.
like she said, she has definitely jumped right in. So I've seen her in a lot of things and very actively involved, which is great.
That's all.
All right. Thank y'all both. Next, we'll go into policy action agenda item. First is to consider a first reading of ordinance, the proposed text amendment to R7 residential district for coverage maximum in chapter 9. Todd, I believe you're up.
That's,
I think you skipped one, man.
that's like a third.
I have an old one here, so I'm going to read this. Sorry, Todd. I jumped in. Consider second reading of ordinance to form a new housing and community life division on council. And John, thank you.
Well, this is really just a.
Thank you. I was getting ready to come get it. Stop right.
This is the second reading of the committee or the board we're going to put together for housing and community life. And so I think the only challenge we have now is filling the positions, which, as we had said before, 7 of the positions will be from each district, each voting district or each voting precinct will be represented. So we have to find, 7 people within that group, and then can have a maximum of 16 people.
Any questions for John? Would somebody like to make a motion?
Move that we consider a second reading of an ordinance to form a new Housing and Community Life Commission, council as presented.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. And I'm looking, all right. Unanimous, thank you. Well, I'm somewhat getting on it. I'm looking up to the screen, so thank you very much. All right, so now, Mr. Beverly, we'll consider first reading of ordinance with proposed text amendment to allow waivers within regulation of Chapter 19 zoning top. Sorry, I jumped the gun.
No problem. The only change to this from when this was brought to you at the public hearing was at Councilman McGuire's request. We clarified the language that a waiver would require approval from both approving parties. So we added that language to our general description of what we mean by a waiver at the City of Clemson. But other than that, it's the same content that we went over at the public hearing. Be happy to answer questions.
So I did see that context. I just think it might be more effective if we had that phrase about both parties having assent every time. The reason I say this, going through this topic a lot. When I get to section 15 and I see something that answers my question, I usually don't go to section 18. Just because so for me, it would be, I think, clearer if we just said something like the director with the assent of the city, with the assent of the police chief, instead of in conjunction with. I see what you did. So that's the thing also. I just think it's cleaner if you see it the first time you read it. The word I thought might be by the director with the assent of the leadership agreement on the ordinance.
Further discussion? Would you like to make a motion with that?
Is that our plan?
So you want to change conjunction in conjunction with, which means together, with,
Either with the agreement of or with the agreement of or the assent. So the first one would be, local standard, the director with the assent of or with the agreement of the city.
It does, it sort of comes to the discussion that assent of strongly suggests to me that it is 2 yes, but which is sort of is what you said last time.
yeah, in
But-
conjunction with would require 2 yes votes. That's why we wrote it that way. And then what we can put any language you want in there that, and then we put in here the overarching is to say that the granting of any waiver requires the approval of each of the parties identified. And so we, I guess, have accomplished the same thing, but if there's a better way or a different way you'd like to accomplish it, the code is pretty, I think it clearly states that the only way a waiver can be granted is if both people agree. And it says that every time it's listed in conjunction with, but it also says it unequivocally that both parties have to approve under the general piece. But if you want us to rewrite it another way, let us know. I'd be glad to.
Just go through documents like this a lot. The tendency is the first time you see the question answered, you don't do it again. I'm going to make a motion that we change the words in conjunction with to with the assent of. So it's a with the assent of the city administrator, with the assent of.
Is that for every time in conjunction with is used?
Unless it's used in any different sense at all, I didn't say anything else.
It's just used a bunch of times in this section. I just want to make certain you're talking about every time.
Right, unless upon, I don't know if it is on that. Every time it does, it usually means. I would say yes, every time it's talking, what Messi says in conjunction with the
I'm actually Googling with the assent of, just to make sure it's. I'm just making sure that it's similar conjunction, just to make sure.
I gotta get a stronger microscope.
Well, with the assent of, ACCENT,
ASS.
ASS.
ASS. You're not declining.
so you're saying, okay. All right, now.
That's an accent, so.
I did it.
No wonder.
Assent of.
Why don't you use agreement?
Agreement.
With the agreement, then we have, with all times, it shows if it's city planner, city engineer, or city administrator. And agreement between the two. Okay.
I'm curious, did accent come up with anything at all?
No, when I pulled it up, that's what I looked at it when I just looked at it. So you can see my eyes are turning back here when I see that instead of a sentence, literally. Is everybody good with the wording, semantics?
With the assent of.
Agreement. Agreement.
That's the motion, then we need a second.
Second.
All right. Any other further discussion on that? All in favor, raise your right hand. Just thumbs up. Okay, I didn't see it up there.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thumbs up, thank you. All right.
So I'll bring that back for your final reading with that clerical change.
I think you need to vote on the actual motion, the first reading of the motion now.
Oh, that was on the amendment, okay.
So, all right, so we're still going back to the first reading of the original ordinance for the proposed text amendment.
Make a motion to approve first reading of 2021 R06 proposed text amendment as amended.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right.
And to be clear, it was, did you change it from assent to an agreement?
Agreement. Yes.
Win with the lawyer.
Okay.
More like accents.
Gotta say it
Accent
like
works
duck
too.
work.
It's kind of like, get it right. Stay with agreement.
It shall be.
All right, so before we go into item C, I just did want to remind everybody again, please dial 653-9886 if you would like to public comment for, it is 2 minutes for speakers. So just remember that for each agenda item, policy, action, agenda item. So item C is considered first reading of ordinance for proposed text amendment to the R7 residential district for lot coverage maximum chapter 9 zoning.
And there was no change to the content of this from the public hearing, but again, at the request of a member of council, we did include all the end notes so the table would read a little bit more clearly to somebody. But there was no substantive change to the content.
Any questions, discussion? If not, somebody like to make a motion?
Consider first reading of an ordinance for a proposed text amendment to the R7 residential district for lot coverage maximum, Chapter 19, zoning division 1, residential districts as presented. Second.
Any further discussion, comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, cool. Thank you, both. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Next item is item D, consider first reading of ordinance to establish a minimum undesignated general fund balance to ensure the long-term financial health of the city residents.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. On December 2nd, we had a council work session where we presented the fund balance policy for the general fund, which would be to have an unreserved fund balance equal to 6 months of the budget of the general fund, and we just would like for you to consider that tonight.
Any questions? Yes.
Just one. So in section 4.3 of that, can we establish a goal or requirement for the district? What is it?
I mean, the wording in here is goal, because you're never gonna be exact, but is to be, if you are, because you will possibly go over or under, and then there's verification of what to do to handle those situations in section 5. So.
Any other questions? Somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve first reading of an ordinance to establish a minimum undesignated general fund balance to ensure long-term financial health of the city as presented.
Second.
That was like 3 seconds.
I know, that was impressive.
Nobody wanted to make a motion, but bam, bam, bam.
I'll just go far in. John Fulmer had a second on that one. So, all right. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, see you. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Leslie. Appreciate it. Next, we consider our ordinance requiring face coverings mask at indoor locations of schools, preschools, kindergartens, and daycares within the city limits of Clemson.
That ordinance expired on the 18th, and it's a placeholder in here to, while the kids are out of school, so let y'all continue to assess the health of the community and at least have an opportunity to discuss and take action if needed.
Yes.
So I'm not going to make a motion to change, but we really, some of the numbers we got today, some of the national news. I think if you are really thinking that in January, we might consider, if we let people know that, so that people can make comments on this and that, and this is the first time. I know this will be on the agenda. I think if you really, I think, we are seriously talking about this continues. There's some point into it. If we give some indication about just an interest in people, just an announcement of verification, otherwise, it is to make some decision without any kind of input, just to make a big deal.
Andy, I was going to ask Mayor if it'd be appropriate maybe to have Ted Swan talk on that third, because he'll have time to gather some data and report to us.
I'll reach out to him.
Dr. Swan issued his sort of a report that he's been doing, and I've just forwarded it to everybody on council. It came out about 6:12 tonight. So I'll give you a little information to go on, at least over the holidays.
Well, I know he'll be watching. I know how closely he's watching it, so it'd be good to have some official discussion on the third. And thank you, Mary.
So the last
You're
thing is,
welcome.
Frank, to your point, suggestions on making sure we get the word out. And we do put it on the agenda as such, to make sure what other suggestions, just to make sure.
Well, I just think if.
Fran, would you take your bandstand and please enunciate a little better? Thank you. Well, I can't hear.
So I'm just saying that, I like we do this on every agenda, I really do. But I think the danger of doing it this way is when it actually is going to be discussion item, people may quickly overlook it, assuming we haven't done that. So if we get to the point, and I'll certainly give you this, if we get to the point where the data gets to the point, and we really going to discuss either the school mass, either the business mass, maybe we can just send out some, I don't know legally what we can do here, but some kind of post-agenda
Could you,
item.
can I offer a suggestion? Could we put it as the number one policy action agenda and move it up to number one? And maybe that will show, because we've always kept it at the end, right? Show that we can discuss it right at the beginning of the policy action agenda.
Well,
And then if you want to share with others, that's fine. I mean, we all have different, groups that we speak with, just to make sure everybody's aware that
whatever works.
I was just gonna make a suggestion to Fran's point, if it's something that he's considering putting on there, since any councilwoman can request an agenda item, if you actually have, basically I would say put the proposal out there at that time, if you thought you were gonna bring it up that night far enough in advance to publish something specific with the agenda, have them, whether it be the old one or not, but that adds a little, that adds a piece of something to talk about specifically.
Okay, who else would have posted agenda? It's not, making all this up. Let's say on Friday before our meeting, that say all really hits the fan. Is that too late to just send out a blast saying this really, really discussion?
only concern,
24 hours notice.
my only
I was thinking
concern,
of way to kind of reach what you're trying to do.
I think that's fair, Steve, they actually have that discussion.
it's important.
That be very transparent.
I just would interject one thing. On the 3rd, it's the day before the schools go back. Okay. And I still believe that if it's serious enough, the school district needs to do something to include maybe go virtual or whatever. I mean, if it's as bad as I think you think it's going to be, then I would like to think that the school district considers going virtual or whatever the case may be. And it's not upon us to do this particular mask mandate for this particular elementary school. So I'm worried that, you know, the kids don't go back to the 4th. I guess the 3rd is an in-service day. I don't know for certain. I know you guys are here, but
No, the 3rd is in service, they go back and forth.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, we sent the schedule out.
But I'm just saying, will they have, you know, would that give them an opportunity to make that call that we're going to come back the first 2 weeks of school as virtual or whatever the case may be, versus us being put in a situation where we have to do a mask mandate for this one school in this whole district. Kind of where I am.
First of all, we just make sure real quickly, do you want to move it up on the agenda? Okay.
Yeah, let's do
So
that.
we'll put that first on the agenda. That could change because we've always put it in. So maybe that push it. And then Tom's point, what he just said,
I know, but I still believe that strongly that the school district, if it's that bad, they need to go virtual.
And then if, obviously, it's gonna have to be a separate item, if anyone is going to bring up the mask mandate for businesses or anywhere else as well, because that's not on here anymore, we've taken that off, so if anybody wants to do that, they're gonna have to get with you to get that on the agenda for that night.
We definitely could do that, or if it's the information coming in, the data coming in is of an emergency nature, you could still add it to your agenda on an emergency basis. But it's all gonna be dependent on what happens.
Right.
So, who knows?
and correctly indicating that on the agenda item, if you are going to have it, it has to be in the Wednesday before our city council.
It's an emergency item.
I know you can adapt it.
We can
Within
change it.
24 hours, but if you know that you're taking.
Just say Friday, because we're here. Well, no, we're
Well,
not.
that's New Year's.
It's New Year's Eve. The Thursday of the agenda, so we have staff to actually get it done.
Thank you. That clarifies. Thank you very much. Okay. Any other,
I think
any other discussion? Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
What we're gonna take.
We're not taking action. You can still share comment. We're not taking action.
Good
If
evening.
you're comfortable taking action.
Well, I noticed you were actually communicating by up and down, but we're currently asking our teachers and our kids to keep the mask on. That's pretty difficult to communicate, and let alone learn. My name's Martin Tiller. My wife and I are residents of Clemson. We've been here about 10 years. We love it. And we've got 3 kids, Rose, Grady, and Micah. They are 6, 3, and 1. And so 2 of mine are currently impacted or have been impacted by the serological mandate this last semester. Do any of you have children or grandchildren currently being impacted or that were impacted this last semester by this mandate? Do you have a child at Clemson Elementary or?
No, at a school, she's in a middle school, a private middle school in the city of Clemson.
Gotcha. Very good. Okay. Thank you for letting me know that. Everyone here, would you raise your hand if you're mandated to wear a mask at work or somewhere you go during the day for 2 hours of your day? 2 hours. Raise them high. All right. How about 4 hours? 6 hours? Maybe. I'm sorry. My understanding is that this mask mandate is lifted everywhere except within the city building. Daycares, preschools, and schools in the city limits. So we've all been given the freedom to choose whether we wear a mask or not outside of those buildings. Does this make sense to you for our children to be masked all day at school or at daycare? I'm thankful that this mandate expired, and I'm hoping that you agree with me that the mandate should no longer be in place for our schools, daycares, or preschools. I'd like to ask what the data is being used to make this decision from your elected position to mandate that our children wear masks. Where is the data? Where is that? I'd like that to be published, public. I don't understand if that's being used. Bottom line, anyone 5 years and up, they can now be vaccinated if they want to be vaccinated. Anybody. If that's how you want to protect yourself, the option is there. There's no longer strong evidence that cloth masks make a big difference in cases and statistics. The masks get so dirty. Obviously, with a middle schooler coming home, you may wash your child's mask. A lot of people don't do that. And they get dropped on the floor, they get sneezed in. So when the child sneezes in their mask, they're expected to wear that mask the rest of the day. It's pretty disgusting if you ask me. So everyone should be given a choice to mask or not mask. The damage being done to our youngest children through forced masking is unacceptable. I would venture to say that the social, mental, and emotional damage to our teenagers is equally as concerning. These kids need to see expressions, to learn and be social again, to be able to communicate. Right? They need to live free of the anxiety of a cloth mask over their face and mouth. They need to hear and see their teachers and caretakers. If you don't have a child in the school system, think about you're forcing your child or grandchild to mask up before leaving the house. We've done this every day for the last 20 months. There's no end in sight. The goalposts keep moving. Enough is enough. We need to let our kids be kids. We've actually come a long way since this pandemic started, right? The first 2 months, I'd come home from work, take off my clothes, I'd first go in the basement door, then I would take off my clothes. We had to be thankful to have a basement shower at the time, and I would shower in the basement, put my clothes in the laundry, and for 2 months, I just want y'all to kind of go back to that March, April, May, when we had no clue what was going on with this thing. So I would do that, and that was the knowledge we had. But now that sounds kind of silly. People can test more often, people can vaccinate if they want, and the responsibility of the pandemic ending is not on our children wearing masks every day for the endless future. Let's stop mandating this. The only reason I can come up that we are still mandating it is that it gives us a very false sense of control and security over a virus that doesn't really care whether you're wearing a mask or not. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Did you get a chance to sign in as well? And just a reminder to everyone, just remember if there are any other comments, I'm not sure. We do have a 2-minute limit for speakers, so we do have to leeway on that as well, but we try to keep it at 2 minutes. Please be conscientious about it.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's what I was saying. We have leeway. We try to keep it at 2 minutes. So appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have dystonia, so I shake a little bit, so I apologize. My name is Jason Richardson. My wife and I are raising our 4th generation of Richardson on Crestwood Drive here in Clemson. To the best of my knowledge, no one in my family has ever had a reason or motivation to speak to the city council in 74 years. When it comes to the wearing of the mask and our children in the school, the opinions vary. The World Health Organization does not recommend masks for children under the age of 6. The European Center for Disease Prevention and Control recommends against the use of masks for any children in primary schools. So it doesn't make a lot of sense as to why the CDC has taken such an aggressive stance in the United States, since we're one of the highest vaccinated countries in the world. The CDC and the White House cite a study in Arizona that has more flaws than facts. The study notes that kids were 3.5 times more likely to be positive in schools that had masks versus schools that didn't have masks. Some of the quotes: "You can't learn anything about the effects of school mask mandates from the study." Dr. Jonathan Keith, a public health economist from the Arizona State University. "This research is so unreliable and probably shouldn't have entered into the public discourse." Noah Haber, interdisciplinary scientist, co-author of Systemic Review of COVID-19 Mitigation Policies. Here are some of the flaws. School started at different times. This allowed for a doubling in positive cases.
It focused on outbreaks rather than cases. The authors define an outbreak as 2 or more cases amongst students and staff. The measure of 2 cases is problematic. Louise McNutt, former epidemic intelligence officer for the CDC and epidemiologist at the State University of New York. Soon as one outbreak was found, testing in that group increased dramatically, leading to the possibility of more documented positive cases. This creates detection bias, which is another major flaw. I'm going to go on with these. I'll kind of made my point about the study that the CDC is and the White House is using. The study is individually fundamentally flawed, and it's the background of the CDC's case recommending our children wear masks. For my family, every day our children go to Clemson Elementary and then R.C. Edwards. From the time we get up to the time we drop them off at elementary, no one wears a mask. As Baylor, my youngest, gets out of the car at Clemson Elementary, she cries. She puts on her mask to go to school and asks why her sister doesn't have to do this. This doesn't even, sorry?
No, it's not English.
This doesn't even speak to the proper wearing or consistency of how an 8-year-old wears a mask, even during a mandate. Once we drop off Baylor, Clemson Elementary, we drive to Edwards, where no one wears a mask, from the administration to the students. Until the time of the mask wearing, my youngest daughter was doing great in school, with no feedback from teachers or other documentation of developmental delays. Now we're in those conversations. We're having discussions of whether we should be held back, private tutoring, take her to a private school, or what we should do to get her back on track. While I cannot link the mask directly to this, there's no question the virus and some of the decisions that it made have had an impact. In closing, my hope is that our city council makes the right decision and that the voters of Clemson do not have to use other resources. Thank you.
Thank you for something there as well.
Of course.
I'm just going to say, just so we're perfectly clear, there is no mask mandate in Clemson as of 2 days ago.
Right.
It's over, and it's not.
Well, the kids aren't in school
It
either.
could be considered again, but it's not being considered. And I think the thought process on letting it go through the 18th was exactly what one of y'all just said, that the vaccinations now for everyone in middle school were available, and that gave enough time for the kids to be fully vaccinated. So at this point, unless we would decide to do something on January 3rd, and you will know, as Fran McGuire, as Dr. McGuire said, there's not a mask mandate in Clemson
But
at this
would
point.
one think that there are going to be a lot of parents with no reproductive studies or anything else, that we would go out and aggressively have our children vaccinated? Is that an expectation?
Say again?
I said, would there be an expectation between now and then that a lot of children are getting vaccinated?
One would hope.
Okay. I mean, sure. I mean, I would hope the kids, but that has nothing to do with it. It's now you've had the people that have the choice to have their kids vaccinated have been able to do so.
Right.
So, for me personally, that was my line, was
Yes,
where
sir.
everyone that was in a school, they had that choice, and we're past that point now. So, again, there's no mandate, and again, it's only on the agenda to be considered.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Brian Frazier. We're the 300 Rippleview Drive. Friends, my neighbor, kind of. I know most of you. I brought my daughter. She's a 5th grader at Clemson Elementary, and I know we got this mask ordinance, or we had it. But where do y'all eat lunch?
In our classroom.
What does everybody do at lunch? Take off their mask, right? So let's say, you're at school for 8 hours or 6 hours or whatever it is, and there's somebody there with COVID and they take off their mask eating lunch. Wouldn't it spread then? When y'all go to gym class, what does everybody do?
Sometimes they take off the mask, sometimes they keep it on.
Sometimes they take them off the mask. how many kids, does every kid in your class wear a mask every day? They haven't. Have they been wearing masks every day since school started? No. So, I guess my point is that a lot of people aren't really following along anyways. I think what John was saying about the school district is let's let the school district, if we get in a big position, let's let them. I got a daughter at Edwards. I've got Hunter Vi, she's my oldest at Clemson Elementary. She's in 5th grade. I've got a 2nd grader, a 1st grader, and a 4K. My 2nd grader tells me nobody's worn a mask in her class since like October. It's individual teachers. If you go on Clemson Elementary's Facebook page and you look at the teachers eating their Christmas lunch stuff, none of them masked. I just think it's just kind of this silly rule that it's kind of like, it's not really, you can't really enforce it. And a lot of people aren't. And if you did really enforce it, people would be, you're going to come in and write tickets for elementary school kids. I just don't think it's an enforceable, guaranteeable thing. When y'all play on the playground, does anybody wear masks? Nobody does. Do you like wearing a mask? What do you not like about it? Doesn't feel right? Do you feel like the teacher knows who you are? Do you feel like you communicate good with a mask on? And it just, there's been no statistical difference between Clemson Elementary, if you look at the case counts on the Pickens County School website, and any other elementary school in the district. And I guarantee you, if you go up to an elementary school in Pickens, there might be 1 or 2 kids wearing masks there. My 2nd grader, he wrestles. We were at a tournament in Henderson County this last week. There's probably 1,000 kids. We do youth wrestling. So we wrestle 3 nights a week. We wrestle at West Oak High School with the JET program. I haven't seen a mask at West Oak High School. I mean, there's not a person in there with a mask. We're going to a tournament. We went to the Bear tournament in Gatlinburg 3 weeks ago. There was 1,500 kids there wrestling. Not a mask on. I mean, it's not, and everything I've read is spreading, if it does spread, it's spreading airborne, but I just think people aren't, you can do it, but I think we're at a point now where if you do, and I'm going to practice civil disobedience, we're going to, come arrest me, come do whatever, but we're not going to follow through. I'm your neighbor friend. If you want to, make an ordinance, I'm not going to listen to it. I'm at a point now where I'm not going to wear a mask. I mean, I'll wear one in here because I choose to come in here, but not going about my day-to-day life. I do construction work. I'm outside. I'm not going to force my kids to wear a mask. If that makes me a criminal, then so be it. I'll be a criminal. But I'm at the point now where, and if kids start to get dying and get sick and stuff, by God, I'll do whatever I got to do. I'll put a mask back on. But we haven't seen that in Pickens County. We haven't seen any of this. I think there's been more kids dying in car accidents this year in South Carolina than there have been in I just think it's time to let people make their own decisions and let the school system make their decisions. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
I need to make one thing additional. I want everybody to have an opportunity. We're kind of saying the same thing. Just keep that in mind. But we still limit it to 2 minutes. But I think the point, especially the last 3, just make sure we're not repeating the same comment as possible. Yes, sir.
All right, Robbie Phillips back was here last time. I just want to quickly say I'll keep it under 2 minutes. I know, Bob, we're not looking at any action tonight, but we are considering, and so I just want it to be considered. I think this thing could, in the next 2 weeks, be just like Chris Justice talking about a snowstorm. We'll have the roads closed down and school shut down before the first drop of rain ever hit the ground in Pickens County. So, yes, let's look at data, like I said last time. Let's make it comparative. Let's be sure that if we're looking at it that there's any kind of noticeable difference in the spread that's happening at Clemson Elementary versus in the rest of the city. I think what the school district used with the spread had to be higher in the school. To make sure we're looking at that. And again, let's just make sure we're not doing this as a feel-good. I know that the next time is when it matters, but we felt like tonight we needed to put things out there to be considered for the next 2 weeks. So, Merry Christmas to you all, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Sure. And when I was making my comments too, we want everybody to have the opportunity to speak here within the city hall, or obviously you have My Civic app. You can call us, email us. We're all receptive to any type of feedback all the time. So we just we'll try to keep the meetings as concise and stay within the 2 minutes. So thank you for y'all sharing your comments. Any other comments? All right, appreciate it. And please, if anybody wants to leave, it's all good. We're going to go into other policy items, and we consider a recommendation to adopt Kinley Horns Nettles Park Master Plan. Jay, lead us off. Yes, sir.
We held our Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee last month. We had a long discussion on this and phasing. Kerry Carson, our committee chairman, is here to talk about their recommendations. Y'all should have received her document last week. Kerry.
Hello, everyone. First, I want to thank you all for your support of the Parks and Recreation. It's awesome.
If you're okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm here to give the recommendations from the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee regarding the Nettles Park Expansion Master Plan. We've spent hours looking at and discussing the community needs and the plans. Most members approved the plan with asterisks, and they have specific concerns about the plans and amenities and funding. I've submitted those to you. I don't know if you've had a chance to review those. Hope you will. There are some common themes that you'll notice. Some things that came up were infrastructure, athletic fields, trails, indoor facilities, staffing, and then everyone had different comments as well. I want to highlight that there was one issue that every single committee member mentioned, and that was the need to do a comprehensive evaluation of our entire parks plan, of our entire park system. Nettles Park is one of our many parks and green spaces in Clemson. And this need for the larger parks master plan, park study, was one of our recommendations from 2020 to the City Council. And we keep bumping up against this as we're trying to make policy and strategic planning decisions, not policies, but planning decisions. So we keep running into it. And so if we were able to assess the entire park system, we may find that some of these proposed amenities at Nettles could better serve the community at other parks. They may be better at Nettles Park. So I think by looking at the whole system, will be confirmed in the plan of Nettles, or we'll need to change the Nettles Park plan. So please just take this need for a broader understanding of our parks into consideration as you decide how to move forward with the plan.
Was there any discussion about any changes to the phasing of the plan?
There were considerations on specific aspects of the first phase. The first phase, those are in those comments that I gave to you. Some of the comments, there were comments. Okay. I don't want to take
I just didn't know anything stood out to you, I guess.
Everyone has to. There were some things that stood out, so but you'll see those as you look at the comments. There's certain comments that a couple of people had the same comments. I went through and I scored how many people made certain comments, and if you do that, you can see the issues that come up. The need for infrastructure is there if we're going to expand the park. Looking at the roads, we could have two parks. We could have not two parks, but it would affect the accessibility of the backside of the park. A couple people mentioned that issue, but if we're going to expand into the back part, you do need some roadways and things like that to access them, but we also need to do the infrastructure. But that's the big chunk of the money. But also we need to make make sure the amenities we do put in the first phase are attractive to the public and know what the public wants. So. Any other questions?
Questions, comments?
Comments?
I'll make a quick comment. Very thorough. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Yeah, great job.
Committee.
You really did.
And I know you work very closely with Jay, and appreciate you looking at it. We've all read it. So we got this in advance, so we appreciate it. That was good to have it in advance as well.
Public comment. Yeah. I think Chad wants to make a public comment.
Absolutely. Cheers him up here.
It's Bob's ready to jump on the bandwagon. I thought I saw him start to raise his hand, so I was making sure he got acknowledged there.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
Questions?
So, what are we being asked to do? What's the adopted plan? What is the logic? What is the bottom line?
If you adopt the plan, you're basically accepting it for information. You'll take the information in the plan into account in your future planning for the park or the overall park system.
I looked at it like the other night, Bob made the comment on the arts thing, and they had not collaborated yet with parks and everything, but Bob said, let's go ahead and adapt it, because we can change and amend it and do things. So to me, that's what adopt a plan means. Okay, here's a premise that we, I'm just giving my personal, not talking this, but, because that's what we just did. You know, there were some parts of that we felt they needed to come back, and they weren't congruous. That's my
Well, who's going to do the overall review of all the parks?
That is usually done through a consulting process. I think the last one we did was 7 years ago, so I have to get with Jay to figure out.
Well, is that something you'll bring forward as an item that we can discuss?
In next year's budget.
Yeah, okay.
It was the last one was in 2012 and expired in 2018, the last plan, Parks Master Plan. And there's some things that staff, I think, can do before we hire another.
There are, we work with the consultant, do some pre-work for them, but usually outside point of view is going to have a more exposing lens, so to speak.
Yeah, this is something that you can do pretty cost effectively. And there's a lot of different ways to approach it where we can do it really cost effectively, to take that umbrella look first and then make sure that this and other things that we have are fitting in and supporting that overall water tower view.
The plan was great in that it gave us this sense of what community needs are and want. And so you'll also see, as you look back at the old master plan from 2012, a lot of these are in that wants list too. So it kind of all fits together. But.
And a lot of those things that you're going to get out of that type of plan are going to be, you're going to get into operational things, you're going to get into marketing, promotional things, you're going to get into finance, you're going to get into, it's not just going to be about physical facilities. If we do it the way that I would think that we should probably do it, that most other places would.
Thank you.
Hey, I don't know if I mentioned this. I think Chad wants to say something.
I'm Chad Carson. This is a little awkward timing here, coming right after my wife Carrie. I just wanted, I'm speaking as a citizen of Clemson, not as a husband of the chairperson there, and also not as a member of the Friends of the Green Crescent Trail. I'm here to talk. I have a concern as a taxpayer and a local community member about the plan, particularly anytime there's a plan that has a big budget on it. This one, I think, if I remember right, was $5 million in phase one, $20 million overall. Just made me pause and think, as someone who volunteers a lot in the community, pays taxes, and I have no problem with any of the amenities mentioned in the plan. I think it's very clear they're needed. In the plan, there's trails, there's parking, there's a dog park, there's sports fields, there's pickleball courts, there's a 4,000 square foot indoor facility, splash pad, pump track, and an amphitheater, and more. The problem I have with it is I think the plan is answering the wrong question. I think the question we're asking with the plan is, what should we build in Nettles Park and how much should it cost? Whereas I think, as alluded to already, the better question, or at least the prior question, should be, what should we be doing as a community with our parks, and then what do we need as a community? Then we can assess what is needed at Nettles Park. I think we've skipped that question, and I think it's very substantial and material, and I don't know how that would impact this plan itself, but my personal opinion is that it could affect it in a big way and potentially change the cost structure, potentially put things in other places that have bigger impact. For example, there's an amphitheater which is a wonderful amenity. Could have 500 people listening to a concert in Nettles Park. Is that the right place for that? Could that have a bigger impact in downtown at Abernathy Park, and could that help small businesses? So there's just a myriad number of questions like that I think are being answered in a vacuum, and the firm did what they were asked to do, and they did a good job of that. As a citizen who's looking at the entire community, my opinion is we should look at that before implementing any of these, because some of the recommendations in phase 1 in particular, to me, make an assumption that you're going to have to do the rest of it. Putting in roads, infrastructure, mass grading, which costs a lot of money. My impulse is to pause, and my hope is that we would pause and think about that before we go forward with anything else.
Some sense of commitment, except for the thank you for pioneering the job. And I think we did that on except for the executive there. John, you have to have your reason sharpened, but because the doc to me does have some sense of commitment to it, except for the thank you for the job you did on this, we would consider it further thought and relationship. That's sort of
I just think it needs to be made clear, because we've had lots of plans in the city. Some of them sit on the shelf and don't get implemented with no awareness of why they did or didn't get. So if there's reservations about it, if I'm the only one who has these reservations, so be it. If there's other people who have those reservations, I think we ought to put that asterisk next to it and say, this is a concern we have. This needs to be done in conjunction or before this. I don't know how the wording works, but I feel like as a citizen, when we adopt a plan or whatever we say, we're moving forward with this, there's an expectation. To be fair to the people who want a lot of these amenities, we went through all this feedback for a year. People were hoping and expecting that some of this would happen. That's the downside of pausing again and waiting and doing all that. So it's not an ideal thing to pause and consider, but when you're talking about $5 to $20 million, I really, that's my, well, I was really hoping for a more, me personally, kind of a stair-step phasing implementation, but perhaps putting all of this in one place doesn't have that. You can't have the ability to do a smaller step. So it was either $5 million or nothing. That's kind of where we are.
You're right, and there's an issue of planning, because like what Carrie said, there's planning that results from all of our parks, and then there's the Nettles plan, and I don't know if we put the cart before the plan.
There also is some efficiency, though, to Jan's point, like is it $5 million or nothing for a phase? There is a certain amount of when you bring in people to develop a phase, you don't put in $500,000 or $1 million worth, because they're there,
right.
They're putting in the work, they've mobilized, you're spending, and I think they showed us that too, you're spending bad money if you do it in too small pieces. So
I don't disagree.
I don't know, Chad, you saw that. We actually asked them in order to scale it down and say, what's realistic? You know where our budget is. We know what resources we have as a city over time to implement this. And to John's point, that came up about if you scale down too much, you lose. It's inefficient. Basically, doubling your cost, more than double. I think you said more than double sometimes. But I agree with what you're saying. You have a plan in place. You have to follow through with it and implement it over time. Don't just put that plan in, like we always say, in the bookcase and just sits there. You follow through. I'm big on implementation as well.
If I were building my personal house and I said I want to build a 5,000 square foot house, that's a really big house. It's more efficient to do that. Those last 2,000 square feet are very inexpensive compared to the first 1,000 square feet. But my question here is, should we do all that? Maybe we should. There's a lot of good amenities there.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right that we did this backwards. We should have had our comprehensive plan for Parks and Rec first, and that's why I think it's better. I don't think I think accepting the plan is fine as information item to take into consideration, but I don't think we take action on this plan until we have taken step 1 before we take step 2 to ground truth it and make sure that we're making the right decisions with this investment in this park, because there can be a lot of moving pieces, and I believe if we go forward with a comprehensive plan, we can get a much broader public input than we got during this process to get more data from more people to make those decisions about what we need to do, where things need to go. And again, it's not just about physical facilities. It's about what we do, why we do it, how we do it in the world of Parks and Rec in the city.
If I might interject, Andy, has Kimley Horn been paid, or does council need to accept it in order to make a final payment?
They don't. This is just an accept, just like the white paper. It didn't, you accepted the white paper, the development strategy, did it knowing that you wouldn't support everything and that things could change. And when we do the overall Parks Master Plan, they're going to look at this study, and I guarantee you it's going to look a lot different than it does now afterwards. But right now, we have a concept for what can happen out there. We've got a lot of good feedback about what types of amenities people in the community are looking for. Where they're located might still be yet to be determined in a lot of ways, but I mean, I'm just asking you to take it for information, and then we'll hold on to it, and then we can kind of, until we have the master plan, we're not going to put Parks and Rec on hold necessarily. We still have things that we're doing, but we need to take these things in consideration. But I do think if you do your long-term master plan, which is what we need to do, that it's probably going to have a lot of things to say about the Neville's plan.
We just need to use the word accept instead of adopt if we can.
Accept and adopt, yeah.
I know it might be semantics to some, but.
So,
right.
Would somebody like to make the motion? Is there somebody else? Sorry.
Notice a lot I hear what Chad's saying, but if you go out to Nettles Park right now on a Tuesday night during soccer season, or you know, I got 5 kids. I got 5 kids playing 7 sports. I'm parking. I'm like, where am I going to park? There's nowhere to park. There's people parking in the mulch, parking in the bushes. They're driving. I mean, they're like 4-wheel driving, trying to find parking spaces. So I think like the amphitheater and a lot of that stuff that's all great and put that on a wish list. But I really think there needs to be some cut and dicing of Jay needs places for people to park, and he needs fields, right? Because you got this youth program that's massive, and we don't have enough facilities. Like I'm coaching AU, I coached AU softball this past fall, you know, and it's like we're practicing, you know, in Central or wherever. There's not enough fields for every team to practice on. Am I wrong? And there's certainly not enough parking spaces for people to park. I am a contractor, and there is, I think what we all are trying to say is the economy of scale. But when you look at the plan, what you could do is, there's on anything like that, you can come in, and you do need to do all your mass grading at one time, because bringing grading equipment out twice doesn't make sense. But you don't need to build an amphitheater or a 4,000 square foot. I don't know what Jay's needs are, but I can tell you there is an urgent need at Nettles Park for parking and fields and bathrooms probably. So, because, you know, if you're down on the very lower, what do you call those fields down there, and like, you know, where the bridge is to Patrick Square, and you got to go to the bathroom, I'm like, y'all go in the woods over there. You better have a roll of toilet paper in the truck. So, I just want to say, don't procrastinate. Don't put it, you know, too far behind the master plan, because it's a pain to park. So,
Well, that's part of the challenge, is if we need to have everything at Nettles Park, or if we need to do other things. So
I like to diversify, because I can't walk to Nettles Park. I can walk to Clemson Park. I can walk to, you know, Ashley Deer, and I can walk all those places. But when it comes to sports and the kids' recreation, you don't have the land at the other parks to do that. I think those are great parks for other things, but without the ball fields, I think the Nettles Park is basically what they use sports complex and adult sports. I mean, to play church softball and all that. But I think I think what you got to do is take Kimley Horn and put this is wish list stuff, and this is urgent need stuff. And if you could divide it that way, like parking and fields are urgent, parking, fields, and bathrooms. If that helps. Because it is a not, if we got practice at 5:30 and good to park, we got 6:30 or 7 o'clock. Good luck, you know. I'm trying to take his spot.
So,
Do I need to sign in?
Jay does an excellent job. We got like the best Parks and Rec guy.
Thanks, Brian.
Just quickly, the word about the facility applied to Invocation. So make a motion to accept the report from the Adams Park
Should I Google that?
Second.
I can make fun of myself.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry. Just got a second.
I seconded.
Thank you.
I couldn't hear the motion.
The motion was to accept as opposed to adopt the plan from Kimberly Horn's Nettle Park Master Plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, so further discussion, questions?
My only comment is kind of ties in what Brian was saying just now is, I mean, I think it was very evident reading through, everybody feels like we need a master plan. I think that's the thing, but I think we do need to move sooner rather than later. We need to identify the things, and some of the things can be done in conjunction with the master plan. We don't have to wait on the finish line because ball fields, parking, if there's a certain amount of things that we can carve out, I do think that while we're master planning, we can also handle some emergency needs. So I just don't want to leave an impression in my mind that we're not going to do anything with this plan or Nettles Park until a comprehensive plan for all the city parks is done. Because I think there's certain things, like you said, just because of the limitation of the acreage, they're going to be at Nettles Park.
I personally envision that there are certain needs, like Brian just said, that have to be addressed.
Yep.
And parking is, I've seen it, Jay, you've not been out there, parking is a major issue. And the more we had 2,500, did I read 2,400 participants in the sports program?
Yes.
So,
And that's not being, my comments aren't being voted on. That's just
right. So that's, we just want to, yes.
I was
Yes, sir.
just going to say, there are some amenities that are going to be at Clemson Park. So that would take a little pressure off, but most of our other parks, there's no room for any other amenities.
Appreciate you coming back. Yes, sir. All right. If there's not further discussion, all in favor?
I second.
Bob second. So, yeah, thanks. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay. It's unanimous. So thank you, all. Thank you. Second item, other policy items, is to consider approval of a request from the city of Seneca to upgrade their cat bus fleet camera system. Sam?
Good evening. That actually is going to be for the Clemson fleet as well. We will do both fleets. What we have is our 5339 money, which is our bus and bus facility that we will use to upgrade ours and the city of Seneca. The city of Seneca is actually my local match. So they're my partner. They are coming in. They would like to do this with us. So we're using them as our local match for that fund. In order to upgrade the camera system, we would go from 7 cameras to 10 cameras on those buses. Currently, we'll add 3 on the outside of the bus and a couple more on the inside. The cameras that will go on it will be a wide angle so we can get from front door to rear of the bus on both sides, and then the driver will have a display monitor that they can actually touch inside and be able to zoom in inside or outside to see exactly what's going on around them at all times. It has the capability of going live. That's something we will talk about later down the road, which would be an excellent feature. But right now, for accident investigations and things like that, officers can get on and do a little bit and actually see immediately what had happened or didn't happen as far as with the cat bus. So we would like to use our 5339 money and our local match from Seneca to upgrade the systems.
Questions for Sandy? Comments?
Thank you.
All right. Well, would somebody like to make a motion?
I move we approve a request from the city of Seneca and Clemson to upgrade our cat bus fleet system camera system.
Second.
Second, Catherine. All right. Any other further comments, questions, discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Can't see. She raised her. Okay. So, Beverly, everyone raise their right hand or clicked yes on the screen. So, thank you again, Cindy. You need to leave. Please leave. Mayor, council reports, comments, new business. I'll just start real quickly. I think everybody received this. And it's your hometown legislative action day next Tuesday, February 1st, 2022 in Columbia, the annual event. And then obviously Wednesday is the municipal elected office of Institute for Government. Please consider attending if you can. You can see your agenda items in here. Have been in the past, and I know numerous other city council members have as well. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. If you are thinking about attending, not even thinking about it, if you are attending, not thinking about it, please let Beverly know. She needs to know as soon as possible. She'll register all of us together when I say that, and then if you do, like, I'll be going just for the day, but if you're staying one night before, you'll need to also let Beverly know as well. So just wanted to make sure I mentioned it. Beverly, did I miss anything? Deadline's January 20th, but I just said as soon as possible.
As soon as possible, because if you do stay overnight, sometimes that it's it
Fills up fast.
Do we usually go as a group?
Actually,
I don't
most of the
remember
time,
last
last time, because
Yeah, it wasn't
last time it was John, Lisa, and I. I think it was just three.
Yeah, we used to have pretty much all the camps on over the years. It's just kind of dwindled participation. Not traveling as a group, but everyone coming
Yeah.
in and attending stuff. So.
Was it? I'm trying to think. It's the three of us.
I think so.
But that was like 2 years ago.
Yep.
Yeah. So I have to think back through. So to answer your question, there's been 3 the last time. So we're obviously encouraging anyone to attend. I think it's very informative, and you meet some of your other peers and learn about what's going on throughout the state as well.
So we just need to let Beverly know.
Just let Beverly know as soon as possible. And she did say there's a deadline, but like she was saying, the hotel will fill it as well.
Just one day.
No, it's 2 days.
2 days.
And the other day is to take classes. If you haven't taken the classes, I think a lot of us up here have taken classes, but if you haven't, that's also a day of classes.
I'm just thinking of Carolyn basketball game.
Trying the same thing. All right, that was my quick. Other reports, comments, new business. No. I thought you were getting. I was like, you're raising your hand, Lowell.
All right.
Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you once again for attending the luncheon, the Women of Influence. I appreciate the support, and with Robert and Andy in attendance, and it was, I think, sold out. So it was pretty crowded in the clubhouse, but I really appreciate the Commerce Club. I appreciate you all's support in being there during that event. So I think they sent out pictures, so if you all like to see some pictures, I can send them, but we do have pictures as well.
Thank you for representing being one of the top 25 influencers within the upstate. So thank you. It was a packed house. I'm looking at Andy. We were both like, when we got there, it was very crowded. So, yeah. So we sat way back in the back. So, but we did get a good picture of it. That's when I came up with the picture. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, Bob.
With our discussion with Parks and Rec, I do know a few people who do a really compact but good strategic planning exercise that would get us what we want. That could probably be done for somewhere in the neighborhood of $15,000 to $20,000 plus some travel expenses, where they would come, they do a community-wide survey, come in, do like a 3-day process. It has the staff and rec commission and others do some of the work on the front end and throughout the process, and you would they leave with a draft of the big recommendations done. So if we had $15,000 to $20,000 and the willingness to do that in this year's budget, we could get that done before, the end of this year, most likely, the end of the fiscal year, and have something to move forward so we don't delay any longer than we need to. And if that's something that you all want me to, like, give me the nod and I can explore and get some options for, that would be a way to get it done.
You have to bid that, don't you?
It would be an RFQ.
Yeah. Well, it's professional services. It falls under professional services.
What's our professional services?
We just
Nothing.
recommend that you typically always throw it out there.
Yeah, I mean, we should, you know,
You should still put it out for transparency, just.
yeah, that's fine. But if you want to explore that option, that would be a way to get it done. The product's good. Usually, those things are getting anywhere between 750 to 2,000 survey responses in a community of our size. So way better response, even though it's a
That's my
population
latest
survey.
This is 114 unique
Yeah.
individuals. I think it showed 149 was on 114 unique.
Yeah.
And that was the high school skateboard crowd organized to
Yeah.
drive part of that.
Yeah, we just need to put it out. We need to put it out to everybody.
So you will.
Yeah, if y'all are okay with me exploring that, getting some information to Andy to see,
I'll be working with Andy.
again, because I don't think you're, you know, outside of a couple of people, you're not going to get something that's well done and at that cost, kind of deal. So.
Are they going to look at the school too?
Bob will be reaching out to you and
Yeah, I'll work with them to develop the scope.
If there's good development strategies, I mean, why not?
What's that?
Jay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good, thank you, Bob. Yes. Yes.
A lot of people spend a lot of time on the white paper on committees and meetings. Andy, I think we're going to put together a report card, film that we can keep reporting back to the departments. Make sure it's pretty good visual. Second, can we have Jay or someone, January, give us a report on 12 Mile Beach, where that stands? It's going to be something pretty good.
I would think that would be Tony, but Tony would actually be better
I
than.
think
A report on 12, I don't know if it gives you. So it's kind of a report
Yeah,
on 12.
just so them speak up on us and, hey, we're ready.
Good point. Prepare.
I think that would help too. And together, just thank you, Amy. I think we got about 3 emails from different people with different issues over the last couple of days. Amy's board on top of those, our board, and Jim Thomas. I think that's great. We're responding actively.
Anything else? Okay. If not, well, first, would somebody like to consider making a recommendation for executive session?
So moved.
Okay, there we go.
Second.
At least repeat what it is. So, read it. It's consider applicants for vacancies of boards of commissions, South Carolina Federal Law, Section 3040, 3047. And then discussion of employment, compensation, promotion, discipline, or release of an employee. So I heard so moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Perfect. All right. We'll be back.
motion, we go back into regular session.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right. And then we'll come back out, and somebody, we discussed, obviously, city and board commissions, boards and commissions, appointments, but somebody would like to make a motion on Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee.
I would like to recommend Carrie Carson and Justin Porter to serve on the Parks and Recreation Commission. Potter, Justin Potter, what did I say? Porter, Potter, I'm sorry, Justin.
Second.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Perfect. We see it online too. All right. Next, would somebody like to make a motion or nomination for the planning commission?
I would like to make a recommendation that we appoint Brad White and we appoint Greg Rice.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Not all in favor, raise your right hand. All right. And the last one that we're talking about tonight is the Police Advisory Board.
I would, I make a motion recognizing Ashby Williams, Bill Caraway, Lane Terry, to serve on the police department.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right. I think that's it, unless there's something otherwise. I hope everybody has a happy holiday, happy New Year's. And the last thing I'd like to do is I'd like to make sure,
About the, you need to mention the parade for the soccer.
Parade for soccer.
but that's not, we can mention it in the next meeting.
That's, okay, that's right.
It's a debate. So, thank you for bringing that up. Everybody have a happy holidays, happy New Year's, please stay safe, enjoy the family time. Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.